What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Raw review. This one is from May 15th, 1995. And I don't do this much, and because it's episode 111, I thought I'd do something a little bit differently. And please do it. Please, please don't click off of this. Subscribe, like, and comment. I never say that ever, so please, just because of that, and I don't shove it down your throats, please, just do it for once. Just come on, hit that subscribe button. But getting into the review, this Raw is coming off the first ever In Your House pay-per-view. I'll throw in my 2 cents about the matches on the show here and there throughout the next 2 weeks or so, whenever the people that were at the pay-per-view are on Raw, and then I just kind of remember about what happened at the pay-per-view, if that makes any sense. So like if we see Jeff Jarrett, I'll talk about the handicap match he had, or when Diesel gets mentioned, I'll talk about his match against Sid. I won't go full recap like I sometimes do after a pay-per-view. That way I don't take up a whole chunk of time not doing the review. So this episode starts with promos from Bigelow and IRS, as they are set to have a match on this episode. These promos to start off the show are very harmless. Whenever they do them, they are quick and to the point, so I can't really complain about them. Jerry Lawler brags about his win over Bret Hart at In Your House in front of his mother, no less, on Mother's Day. I'll show you guys what his mom looked like. If anything, Lawler was her great-grandfather. Speaking of Bret Hart, the only match I enjoyed start to finish on the In Your House pay-per-view was Bret vs. Hakushi. About a 15-minute match that really picked up towards the end, then Lawler getting the upset win over Bret with the help of Hakushi and his manager. Yeah, we all saw it coming, but this is one of those instances where it being predictable was not really a good thing. This means that this feud isn't over, unfortunately, because you still have to have Bret Hart get the last laugh. Our first match of the night is Owen Hart and Yokozuna taking on some local enhancement guys. They beat the Smoking Guns in a WrestleMania rematch at the In Your House pay-per-view, but it was like 5 minutes and the finish came out of nowhere. I wonder if one of the Guns were injured or something. Like, it was one of the matches that I was looking forward to, but it was quick. Like, I can't really say much about it. The Tag Team Champions got the win here on Monday Night Raw as well, continuing their momentum into whatever is next. I think King of the Ring is next. They play an ad for the WWF where we see aliens about to destroy the Earth, but decide to spare us because they see that an organization with a devoted fan base known as the WWF shows promise. So the aliens are giving us another 100 years to live. It's a good thing that we still have another 73 years for WWE to be good again, or else we're going to be dead. So hopefully in 73 years, or 72 whenever this video comes out, the WWE is good again and they spare us so we have another 100 years to live. Even though in 73 years, you probably, actually, if you're 1 year old watching this, you're still going to be around. But yeah. Next up, we have Man Mountain Rock picking up a win with a submission over a jobber. I wonder if those aliens overlooked this guy when they were making their decision. Good thing they didn't see him. Next up, they replay when they gave away the house at the pay-per-view. And talk about segments going off the rails. You gotta give it up to Todd Pettingill for keeping his composure during this whole thing. And congratulations to whoever won the house. Hope they didn't lose it, because I'm pretty sure the taxes that they had to pay on that house, it looked like it was a pretty good neighborhood. So the taxes, they couldn't have been cheap. So hopefully they still have that house. If you know if they do, please let me know. Send me a link to a article that was written about them, because there probably is one. I could look it up, but hey, you have to pay me to do that. Next up, they recap the handicap match with Jarrett and the Roadie versus Razor Ramon. That match was another whole bunch of nothing. The thing of note that happened was after the match, where we got our first look at Savio Vega. He came out and saved Razor from getting beat down, and we were told that he is Razor Ramon's friend and couldn't stand by and watch his friend get beaten up. He got interviewed by Vince here too, and he was hot the whole time, showing some fiery Latin emotion, as Vince probably told him to do so because that's what Hispanics are known for, and you gotta play into that stereotype. I don't mean hot as in he was beautiful to look at, unless you're into that. I mean, Savio is kind of a good looking man in some angles here and there. Anyway, next up we have Mantar versus Bob Holly in a King of the Ring qualifier. Mabel already qualified last night with a win over Adam Bomb, which was another boring match on the pay-per-view. Mantar here dominates for the majority of the match. Holly tries to knock the big man off his feet and finally hits a dropkick from the top for a near fall. Then he goes to the top again for a crossbody and gets the victory and advances into the tournament. Now, stop this and go back to my last review. I said this in that review when I was talking about big men in WWE and them not allowing to let them have other types of matches. I said this exact thing. I said small guys and big guys all have a certain formula to having matches in the WWE, and obviously Bob Holly, he's like a middle guy. He's not really small, he's not really big, but he's taking on a giant here, a monster, if you will, in Mantar. And I said in that review last week that smaller guys, when they're the underdogs, they get beaten down for the most part of the match. Then, if they are being pushed, which Bob Holly is in this case, they come back at the end to get the win somehow, even though they've been destroyed the whole match by the big guy. And that's exactly what happened here. But anyways, after the match, we get a video package for next week where Shawn Michaels is set to return and will take on a member of the $1 Million Corporation, that being King Kong Bundy. Why not take on the guy from that same faction that took you out? Obviously, I'm talking about Sid here. It makes sense as a promoter, like looking at through Vince's eyes, you got to build that match, Shawn versus Sid at the next pay-per-view. That makes sense. But looking at it through Shawn's eyes, why is he wrestling anybody but Psycho Sid at this moment? He's the one that took you out. Why are you going after a different member of the $1 Million Corporation? I have no idea what they were thinking about there. And then talking about some more nonsense, we have Bob Backlund, who is going to tell us his special announcement, but he goes on and on about everything but an announcement. He brings up historical events in real life, even includes his WWF title wins as special events. He gets flustered a couple of times before he announces that he is planning to run for president of the United States of America. Out comes a band as fireworks go off and Backlund starts parading around the arena. This came out of left field for sure. I remember him doing this campaign storyline, but I never knew how it happened, and this is not how I thought they went about it. They then recapped the WWF title match from the pay-per-view. I was into the match, but then they had to fuck it up and have it end via DQ. I'm really surprised at how much I've enjoyed Diesel's matches. I didn't remember ever going back and watching his matches and thinking they were good, but he's been able to hang with guys like Shawn and Brett and has given us decent matches against Razor Ramon, Jeff Jarrett, and now even Psycho Sid. I would even say that the match he had with Bam Bam Bigelow from a couple weeks ago was pretty good too. And then before our main event, we had some footage of Jim Ross catching up with Ted DiBiase from earlier in the day as they were entering the arena. He proposes Bigelow get a tag partner for a match against his $1 Million Corporation. So after Bigelow makes his way to the ring for his match against IRS, he brings out who he's going to have tag with him, Big Daddy Cool Diesel. Diesel comes out and chases DiBiase to the back, so this time nobody will be in IRS's corner. Later in the match, IRS pulls the turnbuckle cover off and Bigelow goes into it. He tries to get a cheap win with the foot on the rope, but Diesel slaps his feet off and stops the count. Then Bigelow rams Irwin's face into the exposed turnbuckle, followed by a headbutt, and picks up a win. Some of the $1 Million Corporation guys come out down the ramp, but nothing happens. Then they show us a special look at Shawn Michaels by playing his Titantron video, and the show ends after some quick words from King Kong Bundy. I'm going to give this episode a bad grade. I felt this show dragged and there was no segment or match to really go back and watch. Most of the show was them recapping the pay-per-view, so that's what they were really focusing on. The deal with the corporation and their feud with Diesel, Bigelow, and Shawn gets continued, but the corporation doesn't really have guys that have good matches, and that was no different with the match with Bigelow and IRS. Add to that we had Mantar and Man Mountain Rock in matches on this episode too. Right now, besides Shawn and Diesel, no other guys are in feuds that I care to see matches for, so we'll see where they go into the build for King of the Ring. But until then, I'm out. Catch you guys on the next one.